I want you to think about something. Did you see the video I put up? It's almost 3 hours where we go over the contract that was signed before birth.
No, I have not. I think that was, you made it private for those that were in the study group.
No, I didn't. It's on my Rumble channel.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll go check it out.
See, what everybody's missing is the foundation. The foundation is the prenatal visits. You just confirmed that with the neonatal nurse. There's a contract signed. With the contract, you give an assignment over the infant, not the
Right.
baby.
Right.
On the bottom of the footprint document on mine, I show that on the video. My mom signed that she received her baby. The top half of the document is nothing about the baby. It's about the infant. Right?
Yeah, but see, most of us aren't going to be able to get something like that.
True, but that's another reason to go to probate court, because you can. Are you familiar with the court case, the Twombly case, the Twombly principle?
I am.
What makes that case so special? And it's dealing with discovery. See, if you know,
The community.
Go ahead.
I was going to say you're talking about the Twombly versus the what was it? Bell Atlantic or a different one?
Yes, they
Okay.
did discovery, and what did they do? That some of the evidence was in Twombly's possession, right?
I keep muting it. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. In this case, in the probate court, you can use the same thing, except for Twombly in this case would be vital records. Because they
Okay.
have a
Following
file
you.
that, yeah, so they have a file in place that they will not release for how many years?
100.
105 years.
Yep.
So using the Twombly principle, okay, push the probate court to bring the evidence forward.
The only problem with that is they could say that they can't bring that forward for national security reasons or some other BS.
Well, let them claim it. Said, Your Honor, if you're going to hide under national security, then seal the case, but bring the evidence so we can get this matter settled. I don't have a problem with national security. If that's what you want to argue, fine. Then seal the record, but let's review the evidence. I have a right to review the evidence. Because if you're going to hold me liable to the contract of the infant, which was state property, then I have a right to face my accuser. And the accuser is the paperwork. And how does it apply?
Right. Well, on that part, though, see, I've been looking into that because, minors, even if we go the minor route, minors don't have a right to contract,
They have
So
a limited right to contract.
I didn't hear you.
They have a limited right to contract.
But they weren't available to do any signature for themselves or to do anything contract with that birth certificate or to sign anything over for it.
Well, that's where the law of agency comes in, because I just made the discovery of a term the other day, and Hannah happened to discover it at the same time I did, and she sent it to me. And I said, yeah, when she sent it to me, it was the next day. I said, yep, just discovered this yesterday. It's called the general agent. Now, let me go to my handy dandy Westlaw folder. Now, while I'm looking
Oh,
that
I
up, by the way,
was speaking about you and Floyd's earlier with civil cite your authority.
yeah.
He said you're his best brother.
Oh, he has fell in love with me. He's been at this freaking. He's been doing this for about 15 years, and he said, "I'm." He said there's a couple of things he says I'm missing, just a couple. And he said when I'm talking, he wants to tell me, "Yes, you're right, but did you think of this?" I said,
Right.
"Please." I said, "Please do." I said, "Because why? That's how I learn."
I'm the same way. I'm supposed to have a private meeting with him sometime after tomorrow because I have a meeting I'm going to tomorrow with some other people. And then me and him are supposed to get together and go over because I brought up to him about the human trafficking laws back in 2015, and he said, "Yes, you're on the right track. There's some great information there." So we're gonna go over that.
Now check that document I just shared. There's three different types of agents: general agent, special agent, universal agent. You're not the universal agent because that requires an actual written contract where there's a meeting of the minds. In other words, the principal has to come to you and say, "Hey, you're the universal agent. Will you accept the office?" Right? But read what it says in the first sentence about the general agent. If somebody doesn't mind.
It's loading for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't open for me. It's probably because I saved it.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
A general agent is authorized to do all acts connected with the business or employment in which he or she is engaged, while a special agent is authorized to do only one or more specific acts in pursuance of. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Now the special agent. You're not the special agent. A special agent is limited in scope. It only has the authority to do certain things. So you're allowed to do all acts in what? Pursuance of what?
With business or employment?
So guess what? When you are going out there as the general agent, you're supposed to go think of the monetary system. They needed that trust to be profitable. How did they create it so it would? You are to go out and use that trust as the agent, create securities, create promissory notes, create the public debt, right?
Okay.
But what's the duty of the principal when you get served? You're to send it to who? Send it to the principal. That way the principal can balance the books. It's their obligation. If your duty is to pay the bills on behalf of the principal has to reimburse you. Who's the principal?
That would be the trustees, right?
Correct. It
Which
is
is
not,
what I was saying earlier
yeah,
about with all the Social Security stuff, send it to the trustees.
that's what I've been saying. Because why? That's why I'm saying when you go to probate court, that's their property. Fine. But you can't hold me liable for your property and your obligation when you did not explain this to no one. It's constructive fraud. It's not fraudulent because they did publish all the laws for people to learn, but it is constructive fraud because the fraud is built into the contract.
You listen to my phone call yet?
Crap, no. I've had so much
Tell
going on the
me.
last couple of days.
She tells me that eventually you are the beneficiary, which would collapse the trust.
No, it wouldn't, because you got to be the sole trustee and the sole beneficiary to collapse the trust.
Okay,
You're
sorry.
not the sole trustee.
Why not?
Because the trustees are listed.
No, I know. Just listen to it if you could. Sorry, I'm not as knowledgeable as you guys. I don't mean that in a bad way, but
I
you should
know you
listen to it.
don't.
You should listen to it. I got some interesting answers.
Oh, I look, brother. I definitely, I do want to. I just had so much going on in the last couple of days. I forgot.
I know you're a busy man.
Yesterday, I was all day fighting with the freaking shop to get my truck fixed so I could finish delivering the darn load. Freaking idiot wanted to he started on the truck, worked on it for about 10 minutes, and then left and then didn't do nothing else. Second shift coming at 3 o'clock, 2 hours, he was done. I said, y'all are a bunch of freaking, I could have had this load delivered today. But D, are you seeing what I'm saying? If the mother took the baby home and both products of conception are to be recorded, guess who never got recorded? The baby. The infant and the baby are not the same. That's why I'm saying the minor disability thing, I don't see any evidence that it applies in this matter, because why? You and it are not the same.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I think doing that inclusion in the name change allows it to be of record that it is separate.
Well, now, I think if you actually bring in all the facts that there is a separation based on their rules, that both products are to be recorded, and the hospital could only record what's in its possession, which was not the baby, right? The only thing in its possession would be the placenta based on the contract, because why? The Northwest Ordinance forbids the ownership of people.
What if you eat the placenta?
More power to you. I wouldn't advise it.
No, it's nasty, but some people take it home with them. Then what are they going to do?
Well, it doesn't matter. You're still the custodian if you take it home, because why? In the lost infant codes, the custodian names the child or the infant, okay? You've already done all the paperwork. You handed it over to the hospital. The hospital, in turn, puts a legal notice in the paper, and everybody just thinks it's a birth announcement of my baby. No, it's an actual legal notice. What does nobody do? They never come forward and say, hey, that's my property.
Yeah, but that's another one of those records that's hard for anybody to locate. I've gone back through all the archives, even to the microfiche for Texas, where my paperwork was done, and I've still not found that news recording.
Well, are you finding in the microfilm, any birth records?
I've found some notices in newspapers, but nothing pertaining to mine. But mine was on a military base, so it may have been done different.
It probably was done different. then. Yeah, because on a military base, yes, it would have been definitely done different. My wife was born on a military base in Germany, okay? But her parents still recorded the birth record in Germany.
And what do you mean
See the
by
difference?
recorded? What was, I mean, because I've got it recorded in our family Bible, but what do you mean by recorded?
Does a gentleman always give notice?
So not actually trying to record it with vital records, but just giving them notice of it.
No, recording it at the county, the land office.
Right. That, yeah,
Because
when I say notice,
where,
I mean that.
yeah, where do you record your property?
On the land record, you get it recorded with the court.
That's right. That record doesn't go to vital records. It's not the hospital's record. It's not their property. Now you may want to put a notice in the paper. If anybody has an interest in this property, please come forward. Okay, they're never going to come forward because to come forward opens the door for the same argument that I'm making. Now you get to start seeing all the evidence, and eventually they're either going to give up or they're going to have to produce the evidence.
Right. See, when you put it that way, it makes it seem so simple.
It really is. See, nothing in this system works except by agent. Can Microsoft do anything without agents? It's a piece of paper. That paper cannot act without an agent operating according to the rules delegated in that paper.
The only concern I have with that is because there are listed trustees, is you can send them requests as a beneficiary for your needs, but they can still deny it.
Correct. They can deny it. But you're not the beneficiary. Well, you might be the beneficiary, D. I don't know. Have you got them to actually put in writing that you are?
Oh yeah, I've got it in writing that I'm a beneficiary.
Then guess what? Now you can use that as evidence. And if you're the beneficiary, now this is the difference in liability. Here's where the courts come in and where trustee de Santor.
Well, yeah, that's how I cleared out all of my financial and got it back to zero, is because I claimed beneficiary and got it all discharged properly.
That's right. Now, an agent holds liability if the agent isn't doing their duty, okay? Now, when you go into these courts and you're trying to make decisions for the trustee as the agent, you're not doing your duty, okay? That's not your responsibility. The beneficiary, on the other hand, holds no liability if the trustees are doing their duty. So if the beneficiary becomes liable for something, the beneficiary can sue the trustees for not doing their job.
I agree. I just want to figure out how to properly format it to where I'm also claiming, because you can be the settlor grantor and the beneficiary, and I know those both apply.
I don't think you can be the grantor. You had nothing to do in the creation of that trust.
But you kind of did when you signed it into creation for the SS, or for the parents did for the BC.
Now, yeah, but what hat was she wearing?
Well, that's what's got to be corrected, because the hat she was wearing was one she didn't know she was in and shouldn't have been.
She was wearing the custodial hat.
Yeah, which was incorrect.
Okay? Which was incorrect. That's the reason for doing the private birth record the private birth record, and then you attach the affidavit to the record, you get a baby picture, put it on the freaking affidavit, put it on the record. You get your up-to-date stats and an up-to-date picture. And guess what? Now you're doing a private birth record. See what I'm saying?
That's what I've been saying. I talked with Jesse a little bit about telling him how we had to do it, and he's gone to the point of doing even the foot records current.
Well, I'm glad he's listening to you because he don't like listening to me.
He listens to me. We got off on a little bit of a wrong thing because I gave him not the full information because I wasn't privileged to give some of the information out yet, and I told him that. So I think he's a little upset with me right now, but he usually does follow what I tell him when I can tell him it openly. But like I've told him, if I get information and if somebody says this is confidential, I don't divulge it. That's just how I am,
Exactly.
and I won't ever do that.
Oh, I have people share information with me, share their own personal files. The reason why they share with me is they know I'm not going to share them all over the place.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to be able to be confidential in what you do and respect others, or you're never going to have that confidence with them.
Yeah. But no, when you start understanding what you are, see, go think of like I got a guy right now. I've invited him to this group. Will he join? I don't know. I said he's got a case going on, a civil case. He said, yeah, the attorneys are filing frivolous papers trying to get it dismissed. I said, no, they're not. I said, they're not filing frivolous papers. You think you know certain things that you don't know. And he had me upset today. He paid me for a consultation. He actually had me bothered because I'm sitting here teaching him things and he's giggling. I'm like, come on, dude. Are you serious about this? Now, he apologized to me later.
Well, maybe it was just a nervous laugh. Some people get like that.
I think it was. He did tell me that.
I'm one of those, if I get nervous or upset, I usually get more angry and stubborn than I do anything else. It just pushes me forward.
I understand. So he's sitting there. I even told him, I said, look, you think you understand the Constitution. Have you ever picked it up and actually studied it? I said, most people have not. I said, yet the government puts out a 2,800-page book to tell you exactly what it means.
I think that in itself right there is the problem with a lot of us not being able to, when they don't get things understood right, is because they're just relying on word of mouth instead of doing the legwork to go research and find like cite your authority always says, cite your authority, know it, research it.
That's right. What was it? This whole thing about people putting out correct your status, right? I said, what are you correcting? I said, people say, well, you got to correct your status, and they think their status is dealing with U.S. citizenship or not, right?
Right.
Guess what? It's not. I now have the document. I went not only in Black's Law Dictionary, go read the definition in Black's Law Dictionary. It has nothing to do with nationality. It has to do with capacity or incapacity. And what led me on that, what brought that together for me, I made a big freaking discovery on Westlaw yesterday. It's called International Encyclopedia of Law, and it's the section on family and succession. And they talk about status heavily in those documents. In other words, what do we tell people? You got to learn how to handle your commercial affairs. That goes to your capacity, not to your nationality. They don't care about nationality. They care about whether or not you can handle your commercial affairs. Because if they turn you loose with all of this power that would be with that trust, the average person would abuse that power. They would not
Right.
act in honor.
Right. They'd have it all spent before it even got out. I mean,
It wouldn't even be that. They would go out and abuse people, other people, and use that sovereignty to get out of things.
right.
The masses are heathens. And a lot of people, that's going to hurt their feelings hearing me say that. But we have to look at this thing. How, whose fault is it that we're in the shape we're in? It's our own.
It's our own. We already know that. Those of us that have researched all this, we all know that it's our own. We've got to take responsibility for our actions.
And the majority of the people I talk to out there, what do they say? Well, the government committed fraud. No, they didn't. Why didn't
Yeah,
they? I said, because they published everything.
They publish everything. It's not hidden. I've said that from the beginning. Nothing is hidden. Y'all just got to do the due diligence and go do the research.
Now, the reason why they have to publish everything is you can't look at God one day when that judgment day comes. You can't say the devil made me do it.
The problem with a lot of people is passing the blame and passing the buck to others instead of just accepting, okay, this is what happened. I made a mistake and I've got to correct it from this point forward.
No, people are heathens.
Yeah. Now, Shane, now, did you read that document I shared with you?
Yeah, probably. Which one are we talking about?
The one earlier I shared with you.
Yeah, 1883. Yep.
What's your thoughts about it?
No, I did not go to any of the cases it cited. I just read. I mean, it was short, sweet, and to the point.
Does it make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, it only really was. I mean, saying one, and then I mean, I don't know.
Now, what I'm working on, everybody, I can't share the document yet, is because it's not complete. But I've got a guy I've been working with, and he's actually using it in his case. And it's all about the law of agency. So
Yeah, and
basically,
is also
so basically, yeah, what we're doing is I'm teaching him how this thing works, and what he's going to do is file this into his court paper and see what happens, because I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen. It's going to freaking make the attorney lose their ever-loving mind, because everything in it is based on the law.
I can't wait to see that. That's good.
I want to see the ruling on it because I mean it's worded perfectly, guys. I mean it is short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, the Fifth Amendment. You have the right not to incriminate yourself. People think, average person thinks, it's what I say. Well, guess what? It's also what you write. Most people write the way they were taught in school. They write paragraphs. They haven't learned how to write short and concise statements of fact.
Yeah, well, the reply is not going to be short and sweet. It can't. I mean, I don't know. My only question about it is that does it this is just part of it, right?
Yeah, this is just part of it. This is not going to be the whole document. This is just going to be the document for that specific use. but that document is going to end up being part of a bigger document to go to probate court. That's why I stress so much, learn the foundations, learn the law of agency, because you're going to be learning who you are in relation to the name. So that way, when you go before the judge and he asks you questions, you got to be able to think quick on your feet and know how to answer those questions accordingly. The average person isn't ready for that. They absolutely look at these judges as corrupt. And I'll tell you now, some of y'all have heard me talk about it. I spent 7 years fighting family court, and I thought that judge was corrupt, just like everybody thinks about their judges. This judge is corrupt. He's violating my rights. Blah blah blah. Do I like that judge today? No. Do I respect him? Yes. Because now I look back on everything he did, and I'm like, I was a moron in half the stuff I said and did. I didn't know what I thought I knew.
We all have that happen. So
So
how are
correct.
things going on your trade name, Pastor?
I'm probably going to have to, you mean on the trademark with the USPTO? I'm probably going to have to appeal
Yeah.
her decision. She just issued a final ruling, and I have 6 months to respond to it to correct the information. She's trying to force me to put down that I'm a U.S. citizen. And I called her, and I said, I can't. I said, because one, I did a FOIA request with the U.S., and they have no records of me being a U.S. citizen. Plus, in the government's own statutes and codes and laws, my nationality isn't the United States. It's the state I was born in. Well, the statutes don't apply to this. I said, oh, really? So I called an acquaintance of mine. She's an intellectual property attorney that deals with copyrights and trademarks. And me and her had a conversation, and she said, you know what? She says, I know you know your stuff, because she follows me on TikTok, right? Now, privately, she sent me messages, and she says, I have never thought of this stuff like you do. But she told me, she said, I'd be interested in arguing a case just to see what happens. She said, can you write the paper and with the table of authorities and all that? I said, yeah. She said, send it to me when you're done. Let me review it. She said, because I'd be interested to argue this case just to see what the result would be.
Now, is that the table of authorities to prove that you're not a U.S. citizen?
Well, you've seen a court brief. They typically
yeah,
have
I've
a
done
section
court,
called
yeah.
table. Yeah, they typically have a section called table of authorities, and the section you argue is based on those authorities, right?
Right.
Now, I did see your post on the 9 different U.S. citizen thingies. I don't know yet if I agree with the 9, but I get the principle. I copied and pasted it and sent it to Cite Your Authority. And I said, can you give me your thoughts on this? He said, when I got time, I will. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he says. But
it's 3 categories within 3 subcategories is how I did it.
Yeah. Now, you did say something at the end, and it was 100% right in line with what Cite Your Authority said. And it was, I don't know how you put it. You put that the land ceded jurisdiction or something?
Oh, yeah, I've got that document from the Bureau of Land Management. We were going back and forth. This is before when I first started researching all this, and I was trying to get my land patent, and I was pissed because she wouldn't agree to give me the paperwork to file for the land patent with the U.S. And so she just finally said, look, we don't have authority to do that because the lands were ceded to each state. And I said, well, give me information on that. So she emailed me everything she had on it. And I said, okay, well, now I apologize.
Well, guess what Cite Your Authority says? Same thing. Now his example is the Colorado statutes. Okay. And he sent me a portfolio on it. He says, how many post offices do you think Colorado has? Anybody want to take a guess?
One.
No. He's asked people this and they'll say 1,000.
Well,
Right.
my
I'm
first
assuming
thought
not
is
a lot.
rural or rural.
Do what now?
I said my first thought is federal or rural.
No. He said, how many United States post offices around the state do they have? In the state? And he's had people guess 1,000, and he said, you're actually close. You would think they have that many. He said, but when you go into the codes, there's only 3. There's only 3 in the Colorado codes that have jurisdiction because the land was ceded to them.
Well, that's kind of like what I
All the
was
rest of
following
the
up
post
on.
offices have no jurisdiction to do what they're doing.
Because you've got, like, in my area, all of them are, they'll say U.S. Post Office, but I've got one post office that is still formatted the old way. And so when I go to it, I've talked to the postmaster there on that one. And she actually told me how to do my addresses and everything with the foreign trust so that it's done with the foreign, even though it's on the land, where the other ones are not that way. You've got the ones that are just back the old ways, the rural is what I call them.
Yeah. Well, how did she tell you to do the address?
It's going to be your county and then the state and then no zip code.
No zip code. Because I know you can still use the rural routes, and they have a way to get them.
They'll get them that way. I mean, she said that'll be fine, but the correct way to do it, the way you do it for when you're outside without the U.S., is your county is in the place of the city, and then there's no zip code.
So it's not the street address.
No, you don't need a street address. It'll still get delivered to you.
Well, what I'm saying is, in the address, do you use the street address and then put the county and the state and no zip? Or do you not use
No,
your street address?
there's no street address whatsoever. It's just your county, your state, and no zip code.
So you put your name, your county, your state, and no zip code, and it'll still get to you?
Yeah, because you do the change of address with them, so they have it on record, and then it's delivered.
Ah. But if you wanted to, you could do the rural route with the county and the state and no zip code.
Right. Yeah.
Because
They're both the same. They're both the same. You just have to make sure you're doing county and state and no zip.
Yeah. Because I've actually looked up the rural routes, and they have different letters depending on what it is. Sometimes it'll be an RR 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it'll be a CC or a CR.
Right.
A CR is county road,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah. I've got the listing for all of them, for all the properties I have.
Where Eon lives, he's not even on the map for the post office. He has the hardest time getting packages.
Well, I put in, when I did my paperwork with her, I just put in one for the house and one for the mailbox. Because I've got a box on my house for hand delivery.
Yeah. And I just had a conversation with She-Wolf last night. You know She-Wolf, don't you?
I've not had a chance to really talk much with her, but I've seen her and I know about her.
Yeah. I like her, even though sometimes she's annoying. And it's because of the way she does things when she's talking. She kind of takes control. And it's like I have to calm her down because she gets excited. But yesterday, we had a conversation about a lot of this stuff, and she's helping some ladies. And what she's discovered with these group of ladies is there was never, according to her, there was never a footprint document filed. I said,
On
well,
her or on
that
anybody?
on the ladies that she's working with. I said, well, that's interesting. I said, that's highly unusual. In other words, they were born in a hospital. Hospital never recorded the records.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things of, if you were wanting to traffic, what do? You don't record the records. So you have
Well,
to
and
raise the,
that's what I was saying. That goes back to that trafficking law that I started researching. I need to finish researching on it. I just found it last night. I was going through it.
yeah. So
That's where I'm following with my. That's what I'm following with my birth registry, because it was on a military base, and they told me to go to the Federal Archives to talk to them, and then now I'm supposed to go through some office in Virginia that's supposed to have it.
now
They're
here's
just,
my question, and I know what I'm thinking how it applies because I've seen my birth record and I've shown it on video what mine looks like. And then we just got my 12-year-old daughters.
right.
Her document looks identical to my document. Okay, in other words, I mean, when you look at the age difference, you think they would slightly change the document because people out there learning this stuff and exposing stuff. But no, they didn't. It has the same language on her document, and she wasn't even born in the same state. Okay. But the difference is I'm trying to figure out how it applies, because all the medical documents that came with it have her name, what we supposedly named her, right?
Right.
The footprint document doesn't. Let's just say my wife's maiden name is Doe. It's titled Baby Doe.
Instead of the father's.
It doesn't even have the only last name. It just says Baby and my wife's maiden name. I said, that right there is evidence to what I'm saying, that the infant and the baby are not the same. The
Well,
question is,
who was the informant on the birth certificate record?
Mom, I was at the hospital, yes. I was put down as the father. You know, I didn't know none of this stuff back then. This was freaking over 12 years ago. But the point is that I'm getting at is, if you go look at my video, they actually put my given name on the infant document. Okay. They didn't on my daughters. They put Baby Doe. Okay. Now, you just remember, Doe would be the maiden
Right.
name.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on mine, they didn't put no last name. They just put the given name. So now I'm sitting here scratching my head trying to figure out how it applies, because I'm sitting here really contemplating that you were not recorded. You were not named. The infant was named, right?
Right.
Well, the hospital doesn't know the name of the baby. Is that the footprint document? That's the baby document. And the even though it says infant at the top, you see what I'm saying? Because the
Follow
name
you.
cannot represent two parties. Somebody did not get named. The question is who?
I was
Well,
gonna
I've
pull the
only
document
seen
out, but
two
guess what? I
people.
can't find them.
Okay, who was that was talking? Okay, who was the lady that spoke up? Empress, was that you or who was that?
No, the lady that spoke up is oddly enough your wife's voice that you could not recognize. Who said,
Because
I was
you
going
and
to pull
Dee.
the document,
Mhm.
but I can't remember where I put it. Other than that, if that's not what you're talking about, it was Dee that was trying to talk.
Yeah, that's when you started talking, she started talking. So no, I didn't recognize you because y'all overlapped. So, hey, honey. But yes, it was strange. So now seeing my daughter's document, that's why I'm having the logical thought process that I'm having.
Do you have
Yeah,
your
that makes.
wife's to compare it to?
I'm sorry, I
Do
keep
what now?
over speaking.
I was just asking if you have your wife's also, so you can see how hers is done.
Hers is different. She was born on a military base.
Pastor, was she able to get her footprint ones eventually?
No, not yet. No, we haven't really tried. Hers is going to be probably. I don't know who she would have to go through to get them.
Well, from what I've been told, and this was from the base commander over the records where I was done at, is they ship all of them for military births to the archives. Mine got transferred from the archives because I enlisted in the military. So they had to reactivate them and send them to Virginia. So I'm waiting to hear back from Virginia now to see if they've got a copy of mine. But if she never enlisted in the military, they should be in the archives.
No, she didn't enlist in the military. No, her dad was in the military. She was born in Germany.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I was born on a military base because my dad was in the military, so all birth records for military dependents are sent to the archives.
Now, where is that at?
You go to archives.gov and there's a for the Army or whatever branch it is, and there's a form to fill out to get your dependent birth records.
So now he was in the Air Force at the time, so it'd be the Air Force archives then.
Yeah, it'd be the Air Force archives.
Okay. Now she has her consular birth certificate. Now the one thing they did different is when she was born, her parents purposely went to the equivalent of the county recorder in Germany and recorded the record in Germany.
Oh, wow. So she's got a leg up on it.
Yeah. In other words, that was their private birth record. And it took us a little bit to get that. She had to email them to even get it because, they speak German. She speaks very little German.
Right.
So she was able to actually, it didn't cost but like 15, $20 for one record. And I think maybe 10 for each after that. So it was kind of like, I told her to go get it and it took us a while, but she got it.
Now that makes me question, okay, like if you take, like I've got my Bible birth record, so if I get that recorded on the land record, and then get a certified copy from the court from it for the record.
I don't know that you can do the Bible at the county. The Secretary of State will accept it, but I haven't found anything that the county will accept it. What I've
Well,
seen
I've
at
got,
the county, what I've seen at the county is the exact opposite.
what do you mean by exact opposite?
They won't accept the recording in the Bible. That's why I'm saying that you got to actually do your own private birth record, um, you know, using a similar template like I've got or something like that.
Well, it's a
So,
certificate. It's out of, I mean, they have removable certificates for the birth records in the Bible. At least ours
yeah,
does.
yeah, well, the way I see it, the one thing I don't know, does it show on the family Bible where you put all the identifying information, like the weight, the length, all that
Yeah,
stuff?
on the Bible certificate. Now on the Bible, there's two separate pages. You've got the beginning of the Bible, at least on mine, but my Bible is really old. It's um the main family ones is like from the 1600s that I have, and then just from my family, my mom, and when they married, that Bible is from like the 50s. But in the front of it is just the record. So you've got all your birth records, your marriage records, your baptismal records, but then in the middle of the Bible is where the sheets are for the actual certificates that they fill out and can be done, signed by the pastor or whoever, you know, but it's actual certificate that has all that information on it.
Okay, okay, then I see what you're saying now. Then maybe you can use that.
Because my thought process after what you just said is if I registered that record at the recorder, the land record, the certificate, and then got a certified copy of it, would I then be able to use that because that's a certified copy of a court recording to do the name
Now,
change directly through Vital Statistics?
I don't necessarily know that you got to go through Vital Statistics to fix it because the two entities are not the same.
Right.
See, that's what it all goes back to.
That's what it goes back to. So then you just have the record, land record of the baby, and then the record of the placenta and the
Now,
umbilical
now,
cord.
what is the infant record? It's the inheritance. It's the estate, right? The way it appears to me so far is the problem is the man or woman's never been recorded. The parents were derelict in their duty. Okay, so the government placed the estate in probate. Okay,
Right.
waiting for the day to come that the man or woman steps forward.
To probate the estate or to do what?
Hey, I'm here. I'm alive. Let me have my estate.
That would go back to filing the guardianship over the state property, right?
Well, have you seen KRS 213.051?
I have not. Not that I know of.
There you go. Now, in almost, not every state, but almost every state, it's worded identical. And it is worded identical in every federal territory. If you look at Now, if you look at the paragraph A, it tells you
I've
it's got to
seen,
be
I've
recorded
seen
within.
yeah, I've seen the equivalent of that in our Georgia statutes. I have seen this.
It is in Georgia. You see, there's that 5 days in paragraph 1. In subparagraph D, you see the custodian names the child. But look at paragraph 4. In paragraph 4, it says, if the child is identified and a certificate of birth is found or obtained. And I tell people, I said, are they saying it was lost within 5 days? No. In other words, hey, if the actual mother and father come forward with their record, what happens? They seal the record. So how do you come forward with your record? You got to record it. You got to do your private birth record.
Then you'd have to take it to the circuit court, by what I'm seeing.
So the probate court, yeah. In Kentucky, it's the circuit court. They say a court of competent jurisdiction in some states. Which court has the jurisdiction? Probate.
Yeah, I've been told here in Georgia it would have to be concurrent with Superior.
Well, is it the same court that handles the felonies?
Yeah,
It's the same court that handles wills and estates. It's the
yeah.
court of record. So basically, all these estates are sitting out there, but nobody's coming forward. And I'll tell you now, even if you do come forward, if you are not ready to handle your commercial's affairs, they're not going to turn it over to you. So don't think you're going to file some magical paper and go in there and they're going to just, oh, there you are. Let's release everything. You're going before this judge and you got to prove to him you're honorable, or her.
No, I agree. I understand that.
But the infant, if you go through the Code of Federal Regulations, you know it calls it a minor account, right?
Yes, I do.
Have you studied what it says in Title 31 about the minor account and the custodian and all of that?
I have somewhat, and I've studied a lot, so it kind of gets mixed up unless I'm looking at it.
Well, you got to think about it. Now, again, it goes back for more evidence that they're not the same entity, okay? The minor account cannot be a standalone account. It has to have a custodial account that it's attached to. And the minor
No, that's what I was
account,
saying about the guardianship. Have the guardianship over it currently for the minor account.
that's right. So the minor account never goes away. You just got to get the custodianship changed.
Right.
And that's why I say what I say, that they're just waiting for the man or woman to come forward that actually can handle their own affairs.
I think that's what a lot of them are trying to do with the name change, is bringing all this forward to the court and getting the custodialship changed to themselves so that they are owner of those accounts delinked from the minor account.
Well, they don't delink from the minor account. They transfer the minor account over to another custodial account, because right now the custodial account is held by the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. Now, if you got a trust and you create your account with treasury.gov and you get control of that minor account, all they do is change it from them being custodian to you being custodian. The account doesn't disappear. You can't collapse the trust.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about collapsing the trust. I misspoke when I said delinked from the minor account. I meant you delinked from the minor account where you're the custodian now.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I was researching on the C1 certificate.
The C1, what's that?
The certificate of 0%. They're with the Treasury.
Okay. Never heard of it.
It's on Treasury Direct's website.
I don't doubt that. They got a lot of forms there. And I can tell you now, I do know for a fact those accounts have securities and funds in them. Now, to what degree and how much, I don't know, because needless to say, I got a letter from the Treasury accusing me of fraud trying to establish a claim against their account. So they admitted that that account has securities.
Oh, they don't deny it. I mean, yeah, they don't deny it, but that's where the C1 certificate comes in, because then there was a regulation. I can't remember it now. I was just looking at it yesterday. I don't ever stop researching, but the C1 account, the 0%, in it is because you're going to no longer do the credit cards and all of that. It's going to be done through that account.
Yeah, it's kind of like you got to set up a pass-through account.
Right.
But no matter what, it still all goes back to agency. What type of agent do you want to be? Anybody got any questions? Do what, D?
I was going to say, before I get into the agency part, I think I need to get a secretary to help me organize shit. I got books and binders of shit written down for laws and statutes and case law, and my hard drive is filled.
Yeah. Well, you know what I've got is a Google Workspace account. It is $20 a month per user. That's the Enterprise Edition, right?
Right.
And Google Drive, you have unlimited space. Now, I wouldn't get Google.
It's just getting it organized. I want to organize it by topic.
Yeah, I wouldn't put all my trust in Google not to make things disappear. That's why I do recommend having a bunch of hard drives. But
yeah, I've got 2 hard drives I store on.
Yeah, you can definitely get Google Drive to be organized.
Yeah, it just takes time away from me researching. I'd have to devote a day or two of nothing but organizing it, and then I'm not learning. I'm just doing paid petty work, I guess, is what I think of it. That's why it ain't organized yet. I always said if I could be a paid student of life, that way I could continuously learn, that would be my job skill. I like
Oh,
research. I like learning.
yeah, I feel your pain. That's my dream. If I could walk away from trucking today and just concentrate on legal research and helping people, that's exactly what I'd do.
I'm right there with you. That's why if I ever get through this, that was one of my ministry things I wanted to set up, because I loved it when I used to do. I got tired of working with attorneys, so I started my own paralegal for helping fathers in custody battles and things like that, because the system's so set against them.
It is.
That,
And the problem, the biggest thing with that community, getting them to listen to this stuff.
oh, I agree. I agree, but it was still fulfilling for me to help, fathers get out of having to do all the shit they're placing down upon them and not letting them see their kids and all this other BS.
Yeah, I've got a guy on TikTok I follow. He's got a pretty good size following of, fighting child support and family court. And he's smart. He's doing things by what he sees the rules as. But getting him to look at this information, he just don't want to do it. I'm like, man, it will simplify everything you think about the system.